Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to work with difficult relationships. Many have probably heard this proverb before. I'm just going to read it to you. It says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." If we're really honest with ourselves, we have to recognize the fact that we at times are a difficult relationship for others. And if we keep that in mind, we're going to be able to be more humble as we approach the topic of dealing with difficult relationships. So, on the basis of Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17, the whole idea of as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another, we're going to look at three tips that we can apply from this passage that are going to help us be able to work with difficult relationships. Now, to get sharp, metal has to come together. There's got to be a meeting in the center for these metal pieces to be able to sharpen one another. Now, not only does metal need to come together, but sparks need to fly. That's what happens when these metals are coming together and they're sharpening each other. And then lastly, I want to suggest to you that not only are they sharpening, or not only are they coming together, not only are there sparks flying, but there's also material that gets lost. So, if we apply the three tips that I want to share with you, you may find that those difficult people become team members that can actually help you strengthen who you are as a person, who you guys are as a team, perhaps even who you are in the workplace. So they will become team members rather than adversaries. So the first point is metal must come together. And in this, we're going to have to apply grace and trust. Now, grace is the idea that we're not going to expect perfection from anybody because we know we're not able to offer perfection to anybody. And if we're not expecting perfection from anyone, then we're going to realize that from time to time, people are going to fail us, and we're going to give some allowance for that. We're going to offer grace. Now, you may also need to be aware that you might be the only person that's offering that person grace in that day or maybe in a very long time in their lives. And so when you offer grace to people, what happens is that you can very easily turn someone who is an adversary into somebody who could be on your team. Now, it's not foolproof, but as a general rule of thumb, if people feel that you extend grace towards them, they're more likely to extend it towards you. The second part of that would be the trust piece. Are you choosing to trust their intentions rather than react to their words and their actions? In other words, they may be unaware of how their words and their actions are impacting you. And that's often the case for a lot of times when we are offended by people, when we feel as though somebody isn't on our team and they don't appreciate us. So when you're working with people that you find difficult, one of the things going forward that you can manage is to choose to trust their intentions and that they're not actually out for your ill, but rather would rather see you succeed, because often that means that they succeed. So choosing to trust them in that sense. And when you choose to believe the best about others, I want to let you know that you often get the best from others. It's very simply put. I often find that if somebody chooses to believe the best about who I am, best about my character, my integrity, my intentions, I'm more likely to offer them more of the good of who I am rather than of the negative of who I am. That's just a standard rule of thumb. If you're good to me, I'm good to you. And so will you choose to trust that person? Will you choose to believe the best about others? And in doing so, more likely to get the best from others. A second thing would be this: sparks need to fly. Look, the reality is that nothing gets sharp without there being this grind, without there being this tough, difficult process to get through. That's why the sparks fly to begin with. And this is where we can respectfully offer perspective and receive perspective. Here's what I mean. You can do this thing called active listening. So here's what active listening is. When you're having a conversation with somebody and you're recognizing that you're in this relationship, you're having a conversation, you're needing to talk about some difficult things, when they are speaking to you, try this. Listen for the purpose of understanding, not trying to figure out what you're going to say next or how you're going to rebut what they're offering you. Listen from the perspective of understanding. So let's say, they may say something to the effect of, I really don't appreciate it when you come in late and you walk by my desk and it's noisy and you distract me. All right. You can be frustrated with that statement. You can be defensive with that statement, or you can offer forward something like this. You know what? I get it. I think what I'm understanding you to say, at least I'm trying to understand you, is that when I walk by, you feel like I'm being rude to you because I'm distracting you from your work, and my lateness is causing you not to be able to perform in the way that you want to perform. So active listening is listening to what a person has to say with the objective of understanding. Now, the opposite side of that is assertiveness, because there's going to be times where you're going to need to be able to communicate and assert yourself in that conversation. And the whole idea of assertiveness is your ability to be able to communicate your thoughts, your ideas, your dreams, your emotions, all of that stuff that sometimes we actually have difficulty communicating. Now, when you communicate, when you are being assertive, it's really important that you are communicating for the purpose of clarity. You hear that? For the purpose of clarity, not from the purpose of just trying to be right. Often when we're dealing with difficult people, we get into this flustered space with them where we're just trying to be right. And we'll argue tooth and nail and just disrespect some opinions and really forcefully bring ours in. How about this? Try communicating from the perspective of clarity. You want to offer as clear an understanding of what it is you're trying to say so that they can pick up on it. And the reason is simple. You want this person on your team, and you want to be on their team. And in order to do so, there's got to be clarity, there's got to be understanding. So listen from the perspective of understanding. Speak from the perspective of offering clarity. The last thing would be this. Material is lost when things are getting sharpened. You know, when you look at that blade, when it first starts out, it's quite a bit thicker than when it ends up being sharp. And the reason behind that is that you have to grind away the things that need to be ground away in order for that sharpness to be able to be present. So this is where we start to think about, are there things that we need to walk away from, things that need to be kind of left behind as we're being sharpened? And this process is really difficult for us because often it exposes our insecurities, often it exposes our preferences, and there are times where these are the things that need to be stripped away in order for us to be sharpened so that we can produce better, so we can have better relationships, and often more honorable relationships. And so if we get this, the difficult people we deal with can become team members that we get to work with and not just have to work with. You know, they could be family members that you get to spend time with rather than have to spend time with. It could be coworkers, maybe the person who's sitting next to you at a desk, or maybe it's somebody who, if you're working in a factory, they're next to you on the line, or wherever that environment is that you're dealing with this difficult relationship. You're very easily able to help these difficult people become people that you don't just have to be with, but you get to be with. And that all happens as we go with this perspective of iron sharpening iron. Now, the result of iron sharpening iron is that we become better and we become stronger together. You hear that? We become better and we become stronger together. That's important. So as you think about dealing with difficult people, as you think about dealing with difficult relationships, I want you to consider just those simple 3 points walking forward. And there are many, many other things that you can add into this conversation. But for now, based on this particular passage, that is iron sharpens iron, so people sharpen people. And that's the impact we have on each other. If we can understand that we got to be willing to come together. And when we come together, we're offering grace and we're offering trust. And then on top of that, we got to recognize that sparks are going to fly. But the reality is that some of the best relationships we have, some of the most honest relationships we have, sparks fly. And it makes both parties stronger and better. And then lastly, of course, there's that point where there are times where we're just going to need to leave things on the floor that are getting ground off because those things are making that relationship even more difficult. So the result of iron sharpening iron is that we all become better and we all become stronger together. So my hope for you is that you will choose a different direction in terms of how you're handling the difficult relationships in your life, because whatever has your attention will have your direction. If your attention is solely on what is negative and solely on what is difficult, you'll never be able to see the potential in that relationship. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I hope you got some direction from this video that you're able to apply directly to your life. If you did find something here, I would ask that you would show some kind of comment in the comments below. Maybe some things that you found helpful in dealing with difficult relationships. I would love to hear from you, and so that we can create a bit of a community that we can build each other up in these things. Feel free to subscribe so that you're able to get updates on the new videos coming up. If you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone. There's a lot of things that we come across on the internet that are very helpful for people, and I'm hoping that if this was a benefit to you, that you would then share it with someone else. So feel free to share it on your social media so that we can get other people gaining some help in dealing with some straightforward tips on how to handle things in life. Thanks for tuning in.